After you execute your will, you should make sure that you store the original in a safe place that your family and or friends, whoever you've named as your executor, knows where that will is, and even have a copy so it's easier for them to administer the estate. Some people ask the question about taking their will to the Register of Wills or the courthouse to have it on file. That is not something that you do in Pennsylvania, and in fact, you can't do that. So it's important for you to keep your will in a safe place. Some people also ask about taking it to a safety deposit box. That is also not something that I would recommend because they're very difficult to get into unless the executor has explicit instructions from the bank that allows them to access the safety deposit box. In Pennsylvania, the probate process begins with taking the will, if you have one, to the Register of Wills and having the executor formally named as the executor of the estate through letters testamentary. If you don't have a will and someone goes in to probate your estate, they would then be the administrator, and so it would be called letters of administration. The next step is really doing notices that are required pursuant to Pennsylvania law. The next step would be to file the Pennsylvania inheritance tax return, which is unique to Pennsylvania, and you definitely want to make sure that you have all of the assets and expenses accounted for before filing that return. And the last step is to come to a family settlement agreement and file your final status report. The probate process takes between 12 and 15 months. It's not necessarily an active process where you're having to do things for all of that period of time, but the creditor notice period when you publish notice of the estate is 1 year in Pennsylvania. When you publish notice of the estate, creditors have 1 year to make a claim against the estate. Also, the Pennsylvania inheritance tax deadline is 9 months from the date of death. And then you won't get your clearance letter for 3 to 6 months after that from the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. So there's not necessarily 12 or 15 months of work happening, but there is some waiting period in there that results in it taking about 12 to 15 months. The Pennsylvania inheritance tax can be filed earlier. You even get a 5% discount for filing the Pennsylvania inheritance tax payment within 3 months of the date of death, but creditors will still have a 12-month period to file claims against the estate. Your executor that you have named in your will is responsible for following your wishes and administering your will pursuant to the terms that you set forth. If you have questions about what to do after you have signed your will, please give us a call at Hosel Law.